Hello everyone. Today's session will talk about the participation and the issues of weaker section in India. So far as the syllabus is concerned, it is the unit 10th of the public society and public administrations in India. In this session, we will talk about who are the social weaker sections so far as this in the context of India is concerned, and how Indian constitutions identify the social weaker sections in India, and following that we will also discuss what are the state protective and promotional interventions so far as these weaker sections of the Indian society are concerned, and following that we will also talk about what are these implications so far as state interventions and the promotion and the protection of the weaker section in India is concerned, and its limitation and way forward. So let's begin with the concept. What is social participation? As I have been discussing with the last 3 sessions, the meaning of social participation in gender, social participation in general, and today we are talking about the social participation and the weaker sections. So let me very briefly focus on this. What is social participation? How you understood, or how the student can and visualize the meaning of social participation. So social participation is a central component of democracy and social justice, as it determines who can engage in collective life and influence the social outcome, which is impacting every individual in a given society. So in principle, democratic societies promise the equal participation to all citizens, including that means so far as law is concerned, so far as the principles of the guiding principle of the Indian Constitution is concerned, it is blind to this gender, caste, racial, everything. That means all are equal so far as law is concerned. Therefore, everyone supposed to, in principle, participate equally so far as the state process is concerned, the social process is concerned. So in practice, however, the participation is structured by a social hierarchy that systematically excludes certain group and facilitate some other groups. So in India, despite the constitutional guarantees of equality for the weaker sections of which continue to experience restricted access to social, economic and political spaces. This persistent gap between the formal equality and the lived reality makes social participation a critical site for examining why inequality and exclusion still persist after we are having the protective and promotional intervention of state after 7 decades of India. So that is the reason why we should talk about in social science the participation or the social participation, and with special focus to, with special reference to the weaker section, that put in differently why the weaker section is matter so far as the social participation is concerned. So social participation refers to the active and meaningful involvement of the individual and groups in the social, economic, political and cultural life in the society. That means the collective engagement. So when the collective decision is being taken, individual or the group supposed to meaningfully engage in the collective activities. It could be economic activities, it could be social activities, it could be political activities, or any other activities so far as the society is concerned. It includes participation in decision-making process, access to institution, engagement in community life, and the ability to influence outcome which affect each and every one of the society so far as its outcome is concerned. So social participation is not limited to the physical presence or the formal memberships in a given society. It requires voice, recognitions, and the capacity to exercise their agencies. So participation become meaningful only when individual and group can engage on equal term and their participation lead to the influence rather than mere visibility. That means, see, when we are talking about the political theory, we talk the participation of two sides of the same coin. One is the participation initially need to have a representation. That is the physical presence of a group or member so and so. The other side of the coin of participation is, see, simply by physical presence will not fulfill the thesis of participation. So what the other side of the coin would be? Active engagement. So the space or the environment or the person enabled to participate the process of decision making in the institution, in the social process. Suppose, take the example. Suppose we are sending a person in a democratic representative democratic political system in terms of MLA and MP. So we are sending a person as a member of parliament to represent some particular geographical section, geographical area or particular social sections of the group. That means he or she has to represent in the legislative body, that is take the example in the lower house of the parliament, and what he or she will supposed to represent the interest, and interest can be represented through active participation so far as the parliament process is concerned. So social participation is deeply shaped by the social inequality and power relations, which access to education. What I am convincing is how the social participation is being determined. What are the factors which determine the social participation? That is the access to education, employment, social network, and public institution that determine who can participate meaningfully in a society and who cannot. So group that face historical and structural disadvantage often experience restricted participation. Even when formal right exists, it could not or it cannot enable the historically disadvantaged group to equally participate with their counterpart. So inequality limit participation by reducing voice, visibility, and influence. As a result, social participation become unevenly distributed, reflecting broader hierarchy of social structure, that is caste, class, and social status, rather than the principle of equality. So let me focus the epicenter of the today's session is the worker section and link to the social participation so far as the democratic political process is concerned. So the term social worker section, which refer to the group or society that experience systemic disadvantage, it is due to historical, social, and educational and economic deprivation. So this group face limited access to resources, opportunities, and social recognitions, which restrict their ability to participate fully in the collective social life. It could be economic, it could be social, or it could be political, or it could be anything else. So worker sections are not defined merely by poverty, but by long-standing structural exclusion rooted in social hierarchies. So they are disadvantaged, collective, persistent, and intergenerational. I underline it. So how you can identify the disadvantaged social group, which is being identified and enumerated in the Indian Constitution. The primary criteria or the indexes are, as I said, the collective disadvantage. It disadvantage may be individual, but individual disadvantage is not taken count. It must be the collective disadvantage. Second one is that must be persistent. Third one is it intergenerational. It does not mean that one generation suffer, the next generation it does not carry forward the same thing. No, it is not like this. So therefore, this collective disadvantaged group need to be identified, and which is being identified and enumerated by Indian Constitution. So the intergenerational disadvantage requires special protections and support from the state to achieve what? The substantive equality. Because in India we have the legal protections which is protecting the weaker section so far as the inclusiveness is concerned, to road to the inclusiveness is concerned. In addition to that, because only the legal protections, undoubtedly we need to have legal protections, but legal protection is not enough to enabling them to equally participate in the social process. Therefore, we need to have a substantive. If you need to have a substantive equality, there is more require of state intervention in positive sense, which we will discuss later on. So, so far as the definition is concerned, so far as the Indian Constitution prescription is concerned, in India, social weaker sections are identified on the basis of historical disadvantage, as I explained, that is social exclusion and educational and economic deprivation. The Constitution of India explicitly recognizes certain group as socially disadvantaged and provide special safeguard for their protections and advancement. Among these social groups, there are many social disadvantaged group or weaker section group. Among them, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe constitute the most historically marginalized sections. Their social disadvantage arises from the long historical caste-based discriminations, geographical isolation, displacement, and long-term exclusion from mainstream social and economic institutions. So, let me focus first on very briefly to the scheduled caste, then scheduled tribe, and I'll come together so far as the state intervention and legal protection are concerned. So, let me first focusing on the scheduled caste. So, scheduled caste have historically been subjected to caste-based discrimination and social segregations. These practices systematically excluded them from the public spaces, educations, land ownership, and position of social authority. So, such exclusion severely restricted their social participation, confining them to marginalized occupation and denying them dignity, voice, and agency, which is more important so far as the democratic system is concerned. I underline it. What are they? Dignity, voice, and agency. And the entire discussion will focus how we can, or the state can provide them dignity like others, voice, they must not be marginalized, their voice should be heard, and the agencies. So despite constitutional evolution of the practices, that is quote unquote untouchability, the legacy of caste continue to shape unequal pattern of participation in social, economic, and political life. So, which from long historical persistence of this disadvantage produces exclusion and discrimination, and sometimes it makes a stigma for them to be in the mainstream society, to be equivalent to the other mainstream people. So far as the scheduled tribe is concerned, their nature is a little bit different. They are not excluded on the basis of caste or untouchability. Their nature is a little bit different, but ultimately they are also being excluded from the mainstream society. So scheduled tribe have experienced social marginalization primarily due to geographical isolation, historical neglect, and displacement from their traditional habitat. Unlike caste-based exclusion, tribal marginalized has often taken the form of separation from mainstream social, economic, political institution, which is isolating them, are unable to participate with other social group, mainstream social group. So the process of colonialization, again, the forest policies and post-independent development project have disrupted tribal livelihood and marginalized them. So the governance system also some way, ignore the issues of tribal, so far as the issues as I have discussed, displacement, isolation, so and so. So this process have restricted the social participation of scheduled tribe by undermining their autonomy, cultural practices, and access to decision-making process. So the tribal have a different pattern of democratic system in their society, and they have different pattern of land holding, ownership, so and so. Most of the tribal culture, it's not aligned with the Indian legal system. Therefore, there is so many problems. So that process exclude the tribal group from the mainstream society. Ultimately, they have been excluded and isolated. So let me focus on what are the constitutional vision for social justice to incorporate this social excluded group, like whether it is scheduled caste or a scheduled tribe. What are the constitutional vision? So the Constitution of India founded on the principle of justice, equality, liberty and fraternity. I underline it. The constitutional epicenter of the Constitution is to provide justice to everyone, equality before law, and liberty and fraternity. So social justice occupy a central place in the constitutional vision, recognizing that formal equality is insufficient in a society marked by a deep historical and structural inequality. So the Constitution seeks to establish substantive equality by addressing social and economic disadvantages that restrict participation and dignity to this socially excluded group. Social justice, therefore, aim not only at legal equality but at creating conditions which enabling all citizens, and especially weaker section which I have mentioned here, the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, to participate fully in a social life. That means Constitution is providing a environment or a system where enabling this disadvantaged group to participate equally to their counterpart, other social group. That means more emphasis on the fair equality of opportunity to participate in the collective decision-making process, whether it is economic, political, social or institutional process. So let me define very quickly, so far as the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe is concerned, what are the constitutional legality, how it has been defined. So the Constitution of India formally recognizes certain group which already I have mentioned as socially disadvantaged and in need of special protections. So scheduled caste and scheduled tribe is one of them, and Article 341 which empower the President to specify scheduled caste for each state and union territories, and accordingly Article 342 for the scheduled tribes. So these are the two articles which helping legally to identify and enumerate scheduled caste and scheduled tribe so far as the Indian Constitution is concerned. So let me very briefly focus on what are the protection measure for the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe people so far as the Indian Constitution is concerned. The Constitution of India provides a range of fundamental rights aimed at protecting weaker sections from discriminations, exclusions and social injustice. These rights are designed to secure dignity, equality and basic freedom necessary for a social participation. That means which provide the individual to have a minimum dignified human life, which is also endorsed by Article 21, that the right to life and dignity. So the key provision include Article 14, which talking about the equality before law and equal protection law. No one is above the law. Everyone should be equal as far as law is concerned. And when the law enforcing agency, that is the state, when enforcing the law, that must be blind towards the gender, towards the caste, towards the racial. That means law is equally applicable to everyone. And Article 15 prohibit any form of discrimination based on caste, religion, so and so. So Article 14 and 15 having a protective provision so far as the legal provision is concerned, and Article 17 underlining that abolition of any type of caste-based discrimination, that is the quote-unquote untouchability. So there must not be any practice, and if that is happen, law will take its own course of actions. And Article 21, which entitle every individual, including the weaker section of the population, the right to life with dignity. That means everyone has to live a life with human dignity. That means human is not simply living and simply breathe like animal, rather live with the dignity like other human being. These are the protections of weaker sections so far as the Indian Constitution is concerned. So what are the promotional side? One is the protection of the law. The other side is the promotion. What are the promotional measure for the socio-economic development and empowerment of the weaker section of the population in India, particularly when I am talking about scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. So Article 15.4 and Article 15.5, which allows special provision for the advancement of the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in educations, and Article 16.4 talking about the special provision for our scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people for the employment, Article 16.4. So these are the few articles which is talking about creating an environment where this weaker section of the population can participate in the social activities. Other than this, also we have some other provision like Article 330 and 332, that is the political representation in the state legislative assembly and the lower house of the parliament, and Article 243, which is also talking about the political reservation in the grassroots democracy, that is the urban governance and the rural governance in the country. So what are the role of the state in enhancing social participation other than this legal provision? So the state plays a central role in addressing the structural disadvantage faced by worker section and enabling their social participation in a society marked by deep-rooted inequalities. The state is not a neutral actor but a key instructor or key instrument to social transformations. That means through state interventions, our society is getting transformed from inequality to the equality, and we are in a route to achieve our destination. That is the mention in the Indian constitutional preamble: justice, liberty, equality, so and so. So state, through the state intervention, the social transformation is being happening. It is through legislation, welfare measures, affirmative actions, and institutional intervention. The state, to correct the historical injustice and expand access to social, economic, and political opportunity, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe are being provided various extra grantia or I can say the protective measure so that they can be able to participate in social activities in an equal part. So education is central to participation, which I have discussed earlier. So education is a central instrument for enhancing social participation and breaking the cycle of historical disadvantage. So education has been given priority, like Article 46, which is in DPSP, now Article 21A, which is giving priority for this education is fundamental right, so and so. So the government of India has introduced a range of educational policies and schemes which aim to improve the access, retentions, and outcome of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe population, including the others. This include reservation in the educational institution, which already I have mentioned, to the SC/STs, post-matric scholarships, pre-matric scholarships, and various such other facilities for helping this group to be empowered educationally. So let me focus on very briefly the economic aspect of empowerment. Employment and economic security are crucial for enabling meaningful social participation. If you are poor, then you are struggling for your fill your tummy, that is for roti and roti. So how can get time to for the other social participation? Therefore, economics matters. The government of India has implemented various policies to improve access to employment and economic resources, particularly for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, including others. This includes reservation in public employment, which already I have discussed, Article 16.4, special recruitment drives, skill development program, and so and so. So what are the other development interventions for weaker sections? Beyond education and employment, social participation of weaker section is shaped by access to land, housing, healthcare, and political institutions. The state has introduced various interventions aimed at improving living conditions and reducing structural vulnerabilities. faced by scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, and that is why there are so many protection like scheduled caste development, scheduled caste commission, scheduled tribe commission, scheduled caste finance development corporation, so and so. So these are the state initiative to one thing to break or to make stop the discrimination in one hand, other hand promote their interest in terms of socio-economic and political to participate or enabling them to participate in the collective social activities. So this include it may be education, it may be employment. So all thing all this determinant make enabling, or all this determinant produce an environment where this weaker section can able to raise their voice, and on the other hand the society recognize their voice and state should hear their voice and accordingly address their problem. So what are the implications after the state intervention? What are these implications? State policies aimed at the development of weaker sections have led to increase visibility, as we have already discussed, and it has been seen also in terms of representations and access to institutions. Educational enrollment has been increasing. Public employment, in all public employment, their representation has been increasing, and in political participation, they are also participating because of this reservation. So, however, the outcome of these policies remain uneven. While formal inclusion has expanded substantively, the participation of empowerment is continue to constrained by discrimination, social stigma, and weak implementation of the policy, which is already I have discussed over you. So what is the way forward? Ensuring meaningful social participation for weaker sections require a shift from welfare-oriented approach to the empowerment-based strategy. While welfare address immediate deprivation, empower and focus on building long-term capacity, agency, and voice. Therefore, we need to focus on the three things: the recognition as well as hear their voice. So, if you have any question, you can interact with me over my email or WhatsApp. So, let me conclude with this. Thank you all.